2, and 1. What's happening, everybody? Yes, I'm going to serve up some congratulations. Welcome to the Life Game Avengers of Current Culture. It's me, it's that living legend, Larry, and he's wearing a Legends jersey, Kobe Bryant, his first number. And I want to congratulate you, Larry, on being a Lakers fan for all these years. I want to congratulate all the Laker fans that are out there watching. And I want to give a big congratulations to LeBron James, not because he won it with the Lakers per se, but because I'm a fan of what he does off the court. I'm a fan of how he stands up for the black community. I'm a fan of how he speaks out on political issues that affect our community. And he's not only speaking out, he's still in his prime. He's a legendary athlete, and it takes a whole lot of sacrifice to do that because not many are willing to do it. So for that, I'm happy for him. Congratulations. Larry, take your victory lap.
Yeah, man, I'm happy for him too. You know, it was an interesting season. I have to admit I was not one that was down for them even playing. I was like, they should just go ahead and scrap the whole season and just call it. But they were able to come up with the with the bubble, and they made it through without a single player getting sick, which is something we can't say for the NFL or MLB. They both of those leagues have had issues with outbreaks on various teams. And so big ups to the NBA for putting it together. Big ups to the players, for in large part maintaining the bubble, even though there were a few that just were immature and in their youth and didn't and paid the consequences for it. But in large part, I just I think it was a victory not just for the Lakers, but as we saw all these young black men, white men too, that were in the league, as we saw all of them stand up for social justice this year and have jerseys that were representative of that throughout the season with the I Can't Breathe and Black Lives Matter and the various sayings that they had on their jerseys. I think it was a victory more that, it wasn't just the Laker victory. It was a victory for America, basically. So, I mean, no matter who won this year, whoever grabbed that championship, it was going to be a victory for everyone. But I'm glad that because LeBron was such a vocal force in, with the movement and really was so outspoken, I'm glad that it was his team because, he really was attacked by like Donald Trump calling him all kinds of names. And so it's a good thing to have him out there to say, look, this is what a winner looks like. This is what a winner does. This is how a winner behaves. And,
and
so it was, and so even though other guys would have, even though other men on the teams, if Miami would have won, I'm sure they would have represented just fine because LeBron was so targeted by our nation's highest leader. I'm glad that he was able to get out there and be seen as the leader that he truly is and victorious to let people know when you speak out, you can still win, because oftentimes black people were always taught if you speak out, you're going to pay such dire consequences that your life's going to be over, that you're going to pay with your life, or you're going to pay with endorsements. You're going to pay with, you're not going to be able to win because the refs are going to cheat you out of stuff. So it was really great to say you can speak out and you can still be victorious.
Yep. So for that is why I'm in congratulations to LeBron for all those reasons you just spoke. And it's been a rough year, and we in our community definitely needed something that we can say, hey, this leader, not only is he standing up for us off the court, but he won on the court, which makes his mystique even greater. So congrats to LeBron again. And let me shout out everybody that's in here. We've got Miss Chris the Sis, we've got Mark Guy, Buzz, Trisha C, Support Gaming, Cash Money, my folk Tim Windsor, Michelle Jackson, Denise Jackson. I love the Jacksons, by the way. Muchella, who just hung with the fellas. And by the way, Muchella, everybody was happy you came through. They're showing you a whole lot of love, and they can't wait for you to come back again. So we will definitely have you back. My folk, Mark Guy, Connie 19, Now let's talk about what we're going to do on the show today. It's not going to be any power today. We're going to save power for Wednesday, and I'm going to give you guys a special program note on Wednesday. We're going to talk about one of the best shows out there right now, and I do mean this out there right now. Lovecraft Country, episode 9. We've got to talk about that. We're going to talk about The Boys. We're going to follow up with Fargo and just kind of get people up to speed on what's going on with Fargo, because that's a pretty good show too.
Yeah, that show is definitely on point. If you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you tune in and give it a shot. Check out season 4. I've watched season 1. Apparently, season 2 and 3 are a little bit different. Season 4 takes it to a whole different place with it. So
yeah, it's if you guys watch Godfather of Harlem, and some of you followed me doing my reviews of Godfather of Harlem, it's kind of in that same vein. But it's just in Kansas City, Missouri, and we'll talk about it on the tail end of this review. Now, for Wednesday's power review that we're going to do, we are going to have a special guest, and this special guest is coming because you, the fans that love me and you love this particular guy, wanted it. And I'm going to show you a clip of this guy. He does stand-up comedy. Take a look, and then we'll reveal who will be with us on Wednesday.
Please welcome to the stage, Jay Moore. Thanks for the applause. Thanks. No need to stand. I won't. So, appreciate it. Life's crazy. You know, I'm getting older, getting fatter, getting whiter. It's like I'm a Republican. Didn't know that would be my future. You know. In case y'all didn't know, I'm in a chair. You know, it kind of sucks, but not for the normal reasons, the obvious reasons. It's because of the things people say and the things you can't do anymore. Like, some of the things I can't do is, like, I can't go, like, to the state fair. Like, people is walking around, eating snacks, delicious foods, just good. You know, I can't go around just driving, rolling up the spots with food. I look like the mascot for Meals on Wheels, just rolling around, just eating shit. It's not a good look.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. You guys wanted it. We're going to deliver. He hit me up this weekend, Wednesday, to talk power and anything else we're going to bring up. Jay Moore from Jay Moore Review will be in the building with me and the living legend, Larry. So be ready for that. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and dive on into the review. We are going to definitely start out with Lovecraft Country. Oh, my God. And for those of you that haven't seen episode 9, let me give you guys a little clip of the essence of what that show was about. Take a look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, what can I say about Jordan Peele's J.J. Abrams? They have, in essence, embodied something that a lot of people haven't been able to do. So, number one, issues that deal with our community. Most of the time, directors, producers don't want to put them in there because they're afraid of offending people in other communities and draw down their revenues. Jordan Peele said, F that. Yeah. This particular episode dealt with the Tulsa, Oklahoma burnings and killings. And the backdrop to this story, which is just so good. I mean, it's really hard to put this in words. In the very last episode, Diana got caught by these punk ass cops who put a spell on her. So
cursed her.
Man, they cursed the hell out of this girl. Her ass was being chased by these ugly things right here and was almost about to cause her to turn into one. And so now we fast forward to this episode in which they thought Hippolyta, her mother, was gone. Hippolyta, was gone. She comes back and we find out that they got a damn Marvel multiverse going on. I was like, damn.
She said there was 60 trillion different dimensions.
Yes, man. And she returned from Earth 504, ladies and gentlemen, to save her daughter Diana. Meanwhile, that Christina Braithwaite, we know she wants the blood of Teague. we know she is kind of playing Ruby and Liddy against each other to some degree. And in this particular episode, it got real deep because they had to call on Montrose, they had to call on Atticus, they had to call on Liddy to go back to Tulsa during those riots. And during the riots, they had to get the book of names so that they could free Diana of that curse, of the curse. Now, meanwhile, when they do get there, they have to split up because Montrose is going to take his ass somewhere to save his gay lover. His gay lover was this guy right here, Thomas. And the clip I showed you was them talking about that scene. We also learned Montrose pretty much confessed that there's a great chance that Atticus might not be his son. And that's what that exchange was about. And so they go through the exchange. We see Atticus is the one who saves that group of people, Montrose, Freeman, George, and who was the girl that was with them, Larry? That was Atticus's mom. Atticus saves them from being beat up and killed potentially. Right. And all the while, Letty is in there pleading with the family to get the book, and she does get the book because she's enchanted by the spell that was put on her by Christina, which gives her the power to be invulnerable. Right. All that said, they managed to get the book. Atticus manages to get Montrose. They get back into the portal, get back in time, and I guess they're going to finish. They managed to save Diana and get rid of the curse. But the overall narrative of this story was so good. Letty's pregnant with a boy. I mean, this thing is good. Larry, expand on the holes I missed. I mean, man.
Whew. Man, I love that part when Hippolyta basically turned into a doggone X-Men. She was floating in the air and her hair turned blue.
Yeah,
I was like, whoo. Man. She went. That's crazy. Though. She said she came back from Earth 504. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I mean, it's funny because when she was up there working on that machine the first time, I was teasing my wife. I was like, how does she know how to do this? I was like, my wife was like, oh, you didn't know that every black woman already knows calculus instinctually? We just do. Because I was like, how she know to do all these calculations?
I agree. You know? I agree. Damn right.
But it was good. I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch. There were people I know that there were some people online that were frustrated with Letty when she was leaving out of Tulsa, and they were saying, why is, she's invulnerable, so why isn't she out there just basically kicking butt and taking names and stopping people from getting hurt?
Because they told you.
Part of that
they told you. She can't change anything. No one
that was part of the thing, that she was trying not to change anything.
Right.
And, and so if she went out there and did like that, just went and kicked butt, she would have started changing stuff, which wouldn't have worked out well. So, I think it was a lot of fun. I guess the book is invulnerable, because it didn't seem to get burned up in the fire at all. So, I mean, that's a good thing, because I was a little worried. I was like, there's this fire chick. You need to get up out of there with these pages.
Right.
So
it's like the book is enchanted.
Yeah. Man. So it was a really fun episode to watch. It was hard to watch at certain times when you see some of the stuff that happens. I mean, it's just, especially what goes on today, it's frustrating. You have to sort of you want to try. It's hard to watch. I don't even know. I don't even want to say what I'm thinking, because it's just you have to just sort of try and remember that this part is entertainment, even though it's based on truth, and try not to think about the stuff that's happening in the world today, because it just makes you angry and it makes you feel a certain way about certain groups. But
I honestly think that Jordan Peele has done a good job. I remember you ragging on Spike Lee when he tries to get conscious on us. I feel like Jordan Peele is doing an excellent job of weaving in Black conscious issues, along with keeping the fiction going well too. How do you feel about that?
No, I really I like what he's doing. I really do. I like the way that he's bringing in history and he's making people wildly uncomfortable while while being entertained. And I don't know how white people feel when they watch this, but I can only imagine that if you are a white person who is trying to be conscious or woke, which I can't imagine that you are a white person and watching this if you're not, I have to imagine the stuff that you're seeing in this show is making you incredibly uncomfortable, because the way white people are, and this is not like this is some, like, even though it's fantasy, it's like fantasy science fiction, the racial elements of this show are definitely not. I mean, the violence, the all the racism, the way that people are treated, it's all very, in large part, is probably tamped down a bit, because in some of these places it was horrific. It was brutal. I mean, to the point where I don't even understand how or why Black people continue to live in those places. I just would have left. But, you know, I mean, I understand people have their homes and that is what they do.
And sometimes you become a prisoner to what you only know.
That's true, but at the same time, you did have a lot of people that were moving up north. They were moving to Chicago. They were moving to Boston and New York and different places. And Detroit, there were places where people were moving and their families would come back and say, "Hey, there's good stuff up here. You should come up here." I personally would have dipped, but that's neither here nor there. It was fantastic. I really love the fact that Hippolyta came back when she did. You know, she basically jacked herself into that machine and held that portal open. There was a scene that they were previewing for next week where they show Hippolyta on that bridge back at the what's that place called? The Apria, what is it called again? Where the house was, where they tried to do the ceremony.
Not Arkham. I forgot the name of it. Was it Arkham?
Was it Arkham?
Artem, yeah.
Artem. So they show a scene where they're back on that bridge. It looks like at Artem, and it looks like there's people coming at them from both ends. And you see Hippolyta right in the middle with that blue hair. And I'm thinking she's going to be an extraordinarily powerful creature at this point, because she, I mean, we already saw how powerful she was holding that portal open. And then it just seemed like some sort of transformation happened. We saw her face turn blue. I mean, her hair turned blue. We saw her skin and everything change. I think she might have changed into one of those sort of supernatural beings that, you know, that sort of had her and put those things in her wrist. So I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch. I just can't imagine how good the next episode's going to be. It's just because every episode seems to keep getting better and better and better. And the story is so good. It's just, I'll tell you, every time I watch a TV show now, it's sort of like this is the new standard. I mean, I used to think The Wire was the best show on TV, and I think this show is the best show that's ever been on TV. And it's at this point, everything else is sort of judged against it. And I mean, I don't even know how someone's going to beat this.
Man. It's definitely, this is what I don't understand, Larry. When we do our reviews on Power, by now we've got over 150 people watching. We're talking about Lovecraft Country, which is a far more superior show. We got 50 people in here. What's up with that? Do you think people are having a hard time trying to put together the story, or you might have to, it's not something you can just easily dive into? I guess the nicest thing I'm trying to say is you got to think too much when you watch this show.
I don't know. I think part of it is that people in this country, Black people in particular, and I hope I'm not dogging anybody out too bad. I'm one of y'all. So, you know, I fall into the same traps, but I think people oftentimes like the stereotypes. They like the stereotypical stuff. It's easy. The typical sex and drugs and crime, and it's easy. And people like that stuff for Black people. And so when you have a show like this, some people don't like watching it because it is uncomfortable at times. When you see white people calling us N-words and lynching folks and shooting us and doing all this horrible stuff that we've tried to put behind us, that we've tried to move forward and progress past, when you're revisiting that, it makes people uncomfortable. And it makes people mad, it makes people angry, it makes people uncomfortable, and some people don't like it, so they just don't watch it. And other times I think it's too, people just like simple gangster stuff. They like the stereotype because the stereotype is easy and familiar.
Well,
so
we got to talk about, man. I know this is about episode 9, and episode 9 stood out on its own. It was a great episode, but there was a couple of things that happened in episode 8 that tie into episode 9. We've got to talk about. Like,
right.
You from the very beginning felt like the monsters were on the side of Atticus. Talk about how at the very end of episode 8, when they were shooting up Liddy's crib, and the monster pops up, saves Atticus from the bullet, and then the monster's about to get Atticus, we thought, and Atticus puts his hands up, and the monster stops. Was that a spell? Is that enchantment? Talk about that particular scene, Larry, because I thought it was excellent.
Well, yeah, that was when Atticus was using the pages and he cast a spell. He had cast a protection spell, but he didn't quite understand what that was going to be. Like when they were in the woods in the first episode and those monsters came out, that was because what's his name? The older Braithwaite, he had cast that same spell so that he could have those monsters protect him and protect the the house and all that, so people wouldn't basically find it and get to it. Mm-hmm. And so when Atticus cast that same protection spell, he didn't understand at the time he was casting it what form that protection was going to come in. So when it came out, because they were in the process of shooting him, the bullets were out of the gun, and that thing just came out of there, straight up from out of the ground. And it took the bullets for him, and then went to eating all the cops. And so when he rolled up on Atticus, I thought maybe he thought that the thing was going to get him. I think he was basically just coming up to Atticus to sort of submit to him and say, I'm here, I'm yours. Mm-hmm. And so we're not gonna. I think that's not the last time we're gonna see those things. I think we'll see him again as Atticus needs them. I think it's interesting that Atticus has his sort of protectors in those bodyguard dog monster things, and Letty has her protection and her invulnerability. So it's gonna be interesting to see how all this plays out.
Now let's talk about Ruby having sex with William, who really is Christina, and then Ruby being so upset with what happened to Emmett Till, she drank the potion to turn herself into a white woman because she didn't want to be black, because she was consumed with all the emotions that black people was having to deal with during that time. Expand on that whole thing. That was deep.
No, I don't think that's not why she did it.
That's what she said.
No, she said that she didn't do it because she didn't want to be a black woman in that time. She didn't do it because she wanted to be with Christina in that moment, or with William, but she didn't want to have a white man. She didn't want to be a black woman with a white man on that day.
Right.
It wasn't that she wanted to be white. She just didn't. Right. She wanted what she wanted. Right. But she didn't want to be a black woman with a white man on that day. So she decided she'd rather be a white woman with him on that day. So it's, I don't think she was running away from her blackness. She just didn't want to be, I think in a sense, she felt like if she had been with a white man in that moment, it would have stained her as a black woman. It would have stained her blackness, Now,
and what is the deal? What is the deal with her having sex with William, who is really Christina?
Well, see, I brought this up when this first came out. I brought this up, and people, and people looked at me like, they went in the comments section and went in on me, thought I was playing some anti-gay stuff or homophobe. Because I asked, does this mean she's gay now? And people were like, oh no, here you talking about, here you go again, blah blah blah. But it's a very valid question, because after she realized what happened, they do have this question that's sort of lingering between them. And you can see when they talk that there's real affection there, that they really have there's an emotional connection and a bond there that is not just friends, it's definitely sexual. And you have to ask, Is
I
it
mean,
does that mean that you're gay? Because even if you know that this person can transform and put on a male body, it doesn't matter if you know what's underneath. It was one thing when she thought Will was a man, but she knows that Will is not a man. She knows that Christina is under there, and so you know you're having sex with a woman regardless of what the physical form is in that moment. And so you still have to ask, does this make them gay now?
so
And I think Ruby even asked that question in some respect.
do you think that Christina actually cares for her, or do you think she's using her to drive a wedge between her and Liddy to get closer to the ultimate goal, which is getting the blood from Teeth?
No, I think she explained it in this episode where she did say, yeah, I saw there was an opportunity, and so I decided to take that opportunity, but I think she actually cares for her too. I think that people can do both. I think you can actually care for someone, potentially even be using them while you still care for them. I mean, it's unfortunate, and maybe we'll find out in this last episode which is going to be more powerful. Her feelings for Ruby or her desire for immortality. I mean, I think at some point it sounds to me, because there was a scene in that preview where we hear Letty say, "What have you done?" And it sounds to me like she's probably talking to Ruby, and maybe Ruby betrayed them or in some way, in some fashion. And because we saw at the end of this episode when Ruby was saying, "You should be getting in this car with me," and instead of staying with her sister, she hops in the car with Christina.
Christina, yeah.
I mean, I think that Ruby genuinely cares for her. I think that Christina genuinely cares for Ruby. It's just, I mean, it's like anything. You have people that love people, but they also have something else that they want, something they're motivated to. We see this all the time. You see men and women in business that have families, and they're like, "I love you. I want to be with my family. I love my family, but at the same time, I want to be a Fortune 500 CEO." And so instead of staying at home and coming home at 6 o'clock to play with the kids and be with the wife, they're working 18-hour days, and the kids and the wife are at home lonely in a big fancy house, driving fancy cars and wearing fancy clothes, but they don't have their husband and their wife in their life, or their father in their life, or whatever. So it's not just that. It's not as so simple as just say she's using her. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, she loves her and cares for her, but she also has her own goals.
Here's the problem with that and the analogy you made. It's not sustainable. It's definitely not. There's going to be a point when the coup de grace is going to be on the line. She's either going to betray them, take Atticus's blood, or she's going to stand by and keep Ruby on her side. There's going to come to a reckoning.
I agree. There always comes a time. There always comes a breaking point in those situations where one party gets tired of it, and a decision has to be made. Either the person that's out there trying to reach for something else is going to have to say, "That's not as important as this," or they're going to have to go ahead and say, "This is more important," and they have to leave whatever else behind and do that. We see it all the time. We see this, and I know this is going to sound jacked up, but we see this all the time when it comes to soldiers. Soldiers sign up, they go to the military, and they are forced to make a decision. Do I leave my family behind for 6 months, 18 months, 2 years, 9 months, whatever the time is, and go off to war, risking life and limb and mental stability and everything else, or do I stay behind with my family? We see it all the time, and more often than not, they go off to war. And oftentimes people they like to use it is a reason or an excuse, however you want. They like to use a bit. I didn't have a choice. I had orders. Everybody has a choice.
Everybody's got a choice.
If you're in the military, you can refuse those orders. There may be dire consequences to it, but you can refuse those orders. It may mean that you end up spending some time in the brig. It may be that you get a dishonorable discharge. It may be that you get busted back in rank. It could be numerous different consequences, but generally people decide, I'm going to go ahead and leave, and they leave their loved ones behind. So this is a decision that people make in all aspects of their life. People do it when they decide, I'm going to go back to college. My mom made that decision. She would decide when we were kids that she was going to go back to law school. So you decide, I'm going to leave my family behind, and I'm going to go do my thing for a period of time, and you do your thing. And some people think of it, well, it's only temporary. I'm going to leave them behind for a couple years so I can give them a better life overall. You have these CEOs that say, well, I'm going to leave them behind for a while so I can make millions of dollars and my kids can go to the best schools and live in the best neighborhoods and have the best of everything. And that's some of the justification that they have. But ultimately, people do this stuff for their own reasons. And so I don't think that Christine is in any different situation. She has a goal that she's trying to reach. She cares about Ruby, but she still wants to attain her goal.
This is our good brother, Brandon. Just My Opinion Reviews. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, please do so. He has a great standalone review of episode 9. And here's a little hot take that you can expect if you go see his review. He says, Ruby is a damn traitor. He didn't say damn, I added that part. She gets nothing more than turning into a white woman. She's willing to sacrifice teeth, and for what? For them hot draws, baby. She getting turned on, and Braithwaite is turning her out. It's what the sacrifice is for. And I've seen people sacrifice greater things than that for some hot draws. Believe me.
Yeah, I think that Ruby probably is going to betray them. I'm not going to say that she's not. I think she probably will betray them. And I think that as far as betraying Tick, I'm not sure she owes Tick anything. I'm not sure. I don't know how you call some. I mean, besides the fact that they're both black, and maybe she owes Tick some loyalty, to the race.
Wait.
She
owes Tick the fact that her sister is pregnant with his child, which makes her the aunt. At the very least, she owes that.
You could make that argument.
At the very least,
they're not married. The kid's not here yet, so people can. I mean, at this point, she doesn't have the kid. They're not married. It'd be different if Tick and Letty were married. Then you would say, yeah, this is family. I'm not going to betray them. Or if the kid was already here, you can say, okay, well, this is family now, so I'm not going to betray them. But they're not married, and the kid's not here. So in all reality, she doesn't owe Tick anything.
Well, the kid, if the chick is pregnant, until the chick is not pregnant, she does owe that much. Now, if all of a sudden she lose the baby, then yeah, she don't owe them nothing. But as of right now, as it stands, she's pregnant, and that's what they think. So she at least owes it to her family bloodline to at least help out the sister, baby daddy, at the very least.
I mean, you can do that. You could say that if you want, but I guess I just disagree. I think until that baby's born and people are actually family, I don't think she owes her anything.
Well, that's exactly how she's acting.
Don't take anything.
That's exactly how she's acting, and I guess we'll find out in the coming episodes. It's only one left? The last one coming up?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the thing that's really interesting about this is we all live in a very racial world, a very racial country, I guess we should say. And once you've experienced magic, I guess, and take some of the racial element out of it, once you realize that the world, even though for everyone else, the world is very much cut along racial lines, but then you experience magic and you realize race really just isn't as important as people think it is, or magic is so much more important and is really the great neutralizer or the great equalizer, then it takes some of that I owe this person this because of race, or I owe that person that because of race. It really becomes something else. And it's hard. I think it's hard for a lot of people to try and understand that, because most of us have never experienced magic. And so, unless you do, you just don't know. I mean, we experience something else called a higher level of thinking. And
that supposedly the higher level of thinking is supposed to afford you certain things that can, I'm not going to say it takes the place of magic, but it grants you certain privileges, certain powers in terms of you're in a position of power that maybe the magic does to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose, you know. I mean, it's like like Hippolyta, right? Hippolyta is saying that she was explaining she can go anywhere in any time through all these dimensions and be anybody she wants to be, male, female, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. She can be anything and anybody in any time. And with that, you can't expect, like, at that point when you have power like that, does race matter anymore? Does it matter? I mean, does it matter at all anymore? I mean, race is, in some respects, it is an artificial construct, and when you break down all of that, it means I mean, at that point, gender doesn't mean anything anymore. All of these things that are used to categorize us and sometimes divide us really don't mean anything. And but for most of us, we never get to experience anything like that. And so these small ideas of race and religion and gender and wealth and all these other little things still matter to us because that's all we have to hold on to. So yeah, I think if we all had to be able to experience magic or experience like Hippolyta has, be able to go anywhere and experience infinite universes and dimensions and time. I mean, because I can tell you right now, if I was able to do that, sure, I would probably want to go and experience all kinds of stuff. And I would probably, for the first numerous, I don't know how many times, I'd probably be black throughout all those existences. And eventually I'd probably be like, why am I limiting myself to just being this one thing? Why would I not say, okay, if I want to go experience, Earth and, in the, in the Middle Ages or something, why would I not turn myself into a redheaded Scotsman or something and go back there and be Robert the Bruce or something? Or why would I not go into the future and become, the 82nd president? Or why would I not go and become whatever? I mean, there would be no reason to limit yourself once you're able to take all those constraints off,
Man, F all that. I'm going in outer space and I'm going to become Thanos. I'm going to go see a black hole. I'm going to go and chill on a moon called Titan. Fuck all this Earth stuff. I'm getting out of Earth.
So you're talking about the same thing. You're talking about, you're going even further. You're forgetting about switching races. You're talking about switching species. You're talking about becoming an alien being.
Well, to some life form out there besides Earth, we're aliens to them. So we could have the same genetic makeup and all that, but we're aliens to them. So I'm going to go and chill out and see what's going on because I have things I want to know about the universe. Forget this small petty stuff. I have bigger questions, and damn it, I'm going in outer space. That's what I'm going to do. Hell, I felt like this was Marvel. Only thing they was missing were the Infinity Gauntlets. The Infinity Gauntlet was that book of names. That's all it was. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move so that we don't run out of time because we didn't get a chance to cover this show, The Boys season finale. Man, if you're finding us for the first time, please subscribe to this channel, subscribe to Larry's channel, and my boy Just My Opinion Reviews is in here. Subscribe to his channel too. Link is all in the description. And this show had a whole lot of race things going on with it as well. Take a look at this little quick clip that kind of summarizes the essence of the show.
Hey, Lamont, one last thing. Can I touch on something before we move on there?
As long as you're gonna keep it under 30 seconds.
All right. Well, there's a comment in the comment section from DVM that says, all I know is if it was ever a real lifetime machine, black people would be the last to know about it. I think that's part of that thinking that black people have, that constantly dragging us down and making us feel like we are lesser than. This is how I feel. If there was ever a real life time machine, black people probably would have invented that shit. I mean, when you think about all the stuff that we did, we are talking right now. I have lights in here. I have electricity through here. And Black people created both of those damn things. We learned to harvest electricity. We learned how to create lights. That shit was not inventions of white people. Those were inventions of Black people that were stolen by white people.
I was going to
And
say,
if you don't believe that, look up the history. So
true,
I
but
wanna
who
say
gets
that-
the problem is in this country anyway, they got all the credit for it. That's the problem. We created
but
it.
this idea that if there was a time machine, Black people wouldn't even know about it. I strongly disagree. Black people would know about it because it's likely we invented that shit, and probably somebody else would be able to recreate that same magic because we would have already have done it.
Possibly. Now we're moving on to The Boys, the season finale. Check this out.
I don't really hate anyone.
It's not something we can afford. We're under attack.
We are?
Bad guys want to hurt us just because of what we look like. They want to wipe us from this earth just because of the color of our skin. It's called white genocide. And we're going to need people like you to protect our kind.
Here we go with this bitch, this Stormfront bitch. We knew from what episode 3, we knew she was a racist. And can we safely say that, Larry? Didn't we know by like episode 3 or 4 she was a racist?
Oh, I knew as soon as I saw her name. I mean,
Larry knew
the name Stormfront. I mean, it's. I knew as soon as I saw her name, I was like, "This is a racist bitch."
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this episode and this season was bananas. It basically ended with they went to get Homelander's son from Becca, which is Butcher's wife. They brought together the coming of age story, Butcher getting to see his wife again, Huey and Starlight hooking up. That hookup created kind of more of a how can I say this? They all want to get Vought because Vought is basically creating these scenarios where they've got these superheroes supposedly trying to save humanity when they've got this compound V that they're using and is considering using it to make other superpowered soldiers, which is what Stormfront's husband originally wanted to happen.
Right.
It all comes to a damn head, ladies and gentlemen, when Butcher makes a deal with Edgar, who is the CEO currently of. Who's the CEO of, Larry?
Vought.
And when they make this deal with Vought, Butcher is going to get the son. He's going to trade over Becca. And while they come up with this elaborate plot to neutralize Homelander, neutralize Stormfront, and all this is going on while you've got parts of the boys trying to use the government to take down Vought. And that plan didn't go the way they wanted it to go. So Starlight and Huey go to meet Maeve to try to get her to coerce, tell on Vought. She's like, hell no, because her lesbian girlfriend has ran away on her. She's upset. She's distraught. She's messed up. She said, F it, I'm not going to do it. So now we get to the big scene where they've got to get Homelander's son because he's the last hope that the regular people have to protect them from Homelander going nuts. Well, I've always said Homelander is nothing more than Donald Trump and Mike Pence rolled up into one with superpowers. And by the end of this episode, you saw that shit. You really saw it. So this big battle ensues. All right. They get Homelander's son. They're trying to get away. Stormfront pops up. She starts beating up people. And then we had the new age Powerpuff Girls. We had Maeve, we had Starlight, and we had Kimchi all beat the snot out of Stormfront. And you think Stormfront is done, but that's not the end of Stormfront. So now we got Butcher and Becca with the son running away. In pops Stormfront one last time. She's about to kill Becca. And the son actually got mad. And I don't know what kind of laser beam he shot out of his eyes, but he shot laser beams that completely dismantled Stormfront limb from limb. I mean, she looked like some burnt KFC chicken laying on the ground. And then
She was, dude, it looked like she stepped on a landmine, boy.
Man, he effed her up. And in the process, Becca was killed. And then Homelander pops up. So now you got Butcher, the son, and Homelander. At this point in time, the son's like, F you, Homelander, you're not my daddy. He's going over there with Butcher. And of course, you're sitting here saying to yourself, what's to prevent Homelander from really effing up Butcher in Pop's Maeve? The Achilles heel for Homelander is he needs to be loved by the people, just like the person we got in the White House right now.
Right.
Maeve waves her phone. She's got a recording of him killing people in the airplane, and her too. And she says, I'm going to make this public. And he doesn't want no parts of that. He lets Butcher and his son go free, which they're now going to be handing over the son to the government. And then in the very end, in a twist to get you amped for next season, Victoria Newman, the congresswoman who's supposed to be taking over, overseeing the happenings going on with Vought, we learned she's got powers like Jean Grey, and we learned she's the one that's making everybody's head explode. Larry, the floor is yours now. Woo!
Woo! I did not see that one coming, boy.
Me neither, man. I did not see
that one with Congressman Newman. I was like, woo!
Man.
I was like, when I saw that, when her eyes went white, and I was like, oh, damn!
Well, speaking of her eyes going white, the reason why her eyes went white, and I almost forgot to tell you guys, when they needed documents to expose Stormfront, A-Train got the documents from the church. I think the church is called the Collective, right? And so we knew the church was crooked like Scientology. We all knew that. And what happens is the head of that church is talking to Victoria Newman, not to be confused with Victoria Newman from The Young and the Restless, at the end of the story, trying to get her to give them tax-exempt status. When she is standing outside his building on the other side of the fence, her eyes turn white. She blows his head up. She walks away. Huey finds her and tries to get a job being on the task force that's going to oversee Vought, not even knowing that she is on Compound V herself. Larry, the floor is yours now.
Yeah, that was great, and I love that scene with Stan Edgar when he's in there talking to the dude from the Church of the Collective, and he basically is just telling dude, look, I have to do stuff differently. I don't have that privilege. I have to do stuff a little bit more subtly and tactically. And it was really just the dressing down of white America in that moment to say, yeah, Black people can get stuff done. We just have to do it differently because of all the crap that you make us go through. So we don't have your privilege, so we have to be smarter and more tactical than you do. We're more like scalpels where you guys can be blunt instruments because you have that privilege.
Right. So what Larry said is we got to be surgical, right?
Yeah, it was real. That conversation was really interesting to see. So, but I was really happy that little kid just straight up just dismembered Stormfront and took her all the way out, because I did not want to see, and I'm glad they didn't put that in. I did not want to see some Nazi crap win out the day. I just didn't want to see that. I would have been like, man, F boys, I'm done with them if they let that happen. So I'm glad that didn't happen. And this little boy, what they're saying is he's likely going to be the only thing that may be able to stop Homelander. He might be the only one powerful enough to stop Homelander. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, especially I don't know what it's going to be. I know that Homelander handed the boy over to to what's her name from the CIA. So I don't know who's going to raise this little boy, but it's going to be interesting if the little boy basically is like, nah, I want Butcher. Where's he at? And just starts throwing tantrums and blowing stuff up, and Butcher ends up raising the kid. That would just be hilarious, and it would be sort of fitting because, that's what his wife wanted. She said, I want you to protect him, make sure he stays safe. And so if he's basically with him all the time and raising him, that would be keeping his word, probably more so than just handing him over. But
yeah, they had a touching scene at the end where the mom had given him a necklace with a pendant that basically said, "This is going to protect you when I'm not around," and he gives that necklace and pendant to the son. That was and this is Butcher doing that.
Yeah.
So and he's usually not that tender-hearted, sweet type of fella, and he done that for that kid, which he really wanted to kill the kid because his first love was his wife, and he sucked it up because in essence the kid is the reason the wife is dead now, but Butcher sucked it up. He saved the kid. He held his promise, and now, man, it's just the slow wait until next season. But this was a damn good season. Very good.
But can we
season.
talk about how this ended with Stormfront? I mean, with Homelander on the top of the buildings, just straight going at it.
Right. That's why I said this is Mike Pence and Donald Trump rolled up into one character. Homelander,
you think that's what Mike Pence and Donald Trump do, is stand on the edge of buildings, jacking off?
I'm sure Donald Trump does it. I mean, come on, man. You don't. I mean, you just seen Donald Trump get his ass out the hospital, and then go on the balcony and do this type crap right here. What makes you think he won't get on the top floor of the highest building just to look down on what he thinks is his kingdom and nut all over it? Are you kidding me? Which is exactly what Homelander did.
Yeah. I was disappointed because I thought they should have had, since they had like the light in the background, they should have showed a big spurt shooting out, but they didn't do that.
Right.
I was like, damn, he's supposed to be a superhero. He can't even get a good nut off. I was like, that's just terrible.
I mean, when you got the powers of Superman, the friction you putting on your mess down there, man, that thing probably liable to be fried like a weenie on 4th of July.
Well, see, this is what I wondered. Like, how could Superman or Homelander, how could you even impregnate a regular woman? Because if you not, you're gonna shoot right through the back of her. That stuff's gonna be like a speeding bullet.
Maybe you can control how much. Maybe you can control it.
I don't know anybody's able to control that when it happens. You might be able to control exactly when it happens, but once it happens, it's gone. It's out of control.
I mean, Homelander's not an alien, but Superman is an alien. But Homelander's he's cooped up on Compound V, so maybe that part of him doesn't do super things. That's the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe so. But it was a damn good episode. I'm gonna do season 3 trailer is out, and I'm gonna break it down because they've got another character coming up there who's supposed to be their version of quote unquote Captain America. And you got to think, ladies and gentlemen, this Compound V is nothing more than the super soldier serum that Marvel used to create
Captain America.
Only difference is you're getting a whole lot of freaky deaky other powers coming out of this Compound V. And I'm interested to see where they go next season. And so
I want to know when we're going to get a black female suit.
Maybe next season, possibly. I'm sure they have thought about that, and they're probably working on it. And if you do bring a black one, they want to make her iconic. You just can't bring some Lily Starlight or you got to bring someone who's going to drop the hammer. So hopefully
we have white females, we have an Asian, we have 2 Asian females because we have one Asian female. We have Kamiko, and then we have an Arab one with
Victoria
Newman, because Congressman Newman is Persian.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll see.
We don't have a black female one.
We'll see, man. Get it in. Great episode. Last thing on this list, and we've got about 7 minutes, so this one's going to be all Larry because I'm sure he's way more versed in it than me. Fargo season 4. We're just going to kind of randomly talk about everything that's happened thus far, and to give you guys a backdrop. This show is good too, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said,
it is.
If you like The Godfather of Harlem, you will definitely like this show. Basically, you've got Kansas City, Missouri during the 50s, and you've got 2 families running one city. Initially, you've got the Irish versus the Italians. And what they do to show solidarity toward each other they hand over their sons to each other, kind of the same way that you've seen if for all my comic book people out there, the Justice League, where Darkseid hands over his son to the New God do the same thing. This has been something that they've written about, people have done for years to try to make a peace offering, say, I've got your blood, you've got my blood. Okay, we'll fast forward. The Irishman son double crosses his family, shoots his daddy to help the Italians. So now the Italians is running the city by themselves. In comes Chris Rock's character, Loy Cannon. They do the same thing, exchange sons, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And when they exchange sons, the father of the Italians gets sick. And then they introduce us to
shot.
Gets shot by a BB gun. Then they introduce us to Nurse Ratched. Her name is Nurse Mayflower, and this bitch is crazy. She's up here baking apple pies, putting in syrup that makes you throw up and stuff like that. And while the Italian's father is sick, she meets the son of the Italian's father, starts doing cocaine with him, starts kind of helping him out a little bit. Meanwhile, you've got this character named Pearl Sumter who narrates the first episode a whole lot. She's a smart, witty young black girl. Very smart. Right. She's so smart that she keeps getting beat because she writes about conscious things that are going on that the white people don't want to hear. Again, we're dealing with these conscious issues that some might find offensive when they're weaving fiction with truth. Her family.
And what's interesting is that she's the product of an interracial relationship.
Exactly.
That and I mean, it's unclear in this time because from my understanding, interracial marriage isn't even legal at this point, but they're living together as man and wife and they have a child together. So I'm not even sure how that is actually working out legally.
Now,
but
wasn't it legal? I think it was legal in Kansas during that time, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure.
And
I thought it wasn't because I think this was back in like the 50s or the 40s or 50s. And I don't think it actually became legal into the 60s.
It was the 50s. And maybe it wasn't legal, which the person he's talking about, their family runs a mortuary. And within that, they've got 3 levels in their house. And in the second episode, the wife's sisters break out of jail, who's supposed to be in jail for 5 years for armed robbery. But this thing got some twist to it. They break out of jail, they find the sister, and the daughter, who is just a smart mouth, smart as a tack whip. You'll love her character. It's kind of, giving her mom the business a little bit, wondering why is she dealing with Chris Rock's character. They're in debt. The sister claims they're supposed to help them with the debt, or she heard she's in debt. The daddy is a pushover during that era. He's definitely a little pushover. And the daughter is able to manipulate the daddy, unlike my daughter is able to manipulate me. You understand? She's able to manipulate
that, huh? Still trying to play that role.
Yeah, she's able to manipulate that daddy into giving up business about the family. And so, and as the story moves on, of course, you get skirmishes between the Italians and the blacks. They've got Colonel Taylor from A Different World playing Dr. Senator Esquire, and he's playing the hell out that role. Larry, the floor is yours now to talk about anything you want to talk about in Fargo season 4.
Yeah, there are a lot of interesting characters in here. It's interesting because there is there's an internal power struggle with the Italians where you have the one son that's in charge right now. He's the boss, but then his cousin came over from Italy, from Sicily, and he's this big brute of a man who's much more of a blunt instrument than a strategical thinker. And so he's out there doing stuff and making mistakes. Go ahead.
Before you go, they set it up as if that son was like that when he was talking to the father, because the father basically had a conversation with them in the car when he got shot with a BB gun that basically was, he highlighted that we're immigrants too, kind of almost putting them on the same level as black people by saying this is not our land. And the son didn't really understand that. The son was kind of like, those are niggers, they're below us. And the dad's like, no, we're in a foreign place. We're immigrants too. and you need to respect Lloyd Cannon, which is Chris Rock's character. But go ahead, just thought I'd let you know about that.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because you have this sort of internal power struggle between these two, and so you have this sort of like the last episode, I believe it was called the Pretend War, and it was basically, are these two families about to go to war or not? And it's sort of like you have the Italians that are sort of already at war internally, and then you have this thing of, are they going to war? Are the blacks and Italians going to war against each other? And you have the black crew had been robbed, and now they're trying to figure out, was it the Italians who did it? Plus you have the Irish dude that basically said no, he wasn't going to kill the oldest son of Lloyd Cannon, the leader of the Blacks mafia family, and that set off a whole nother thing with the Italians. It's just, there's a lot going on in these stories, and this is one of those shows where you kind of have to watch it, because things happen, and if you're not paying attention, you won't get lost, but you'll be like, wait, what a minute, wait, what happened? And then you may have to rewind it a little bit. So you have to pay attention a little bit.
And the other thing you've got to pay attention to, and I would encourage you to turn on your captions. Their dialect can be hard to cut through as well, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, they're playing the hell out of that dialect. So turn on your captions so that you can also kind of read what they're saying in case something flies by you.
Right. And it's interesting, like the whole thing about the credit cards and all that, and he was trying to say, he was telling him it's a financial instrument. And it's funny, you think about that, it was like a gangster who brought this to him, and they were like, nah, we don't want to do this. And now the whole world is run off a credit like this. It's really pretty amazing.
Now, can you imagine how many ideas our people have brought to them, and they just like, nope. And then some white dude who's an establishment person walks in there with the same damn idea, and they're like, oh, this is hotter than butter. This is the next greatest thing to a pancake with fucking syrup.
Well, they just steal it. They don't even need to be some other white person. They can just simply say, nah, that's not something we want to do. And then they just turn around and take it. Because at that time, what was a black person going to do from a white person? They're going to say, oh, you stole my idea. They're just going to say, you don't even have standing in this court. Leave. Right. So, I mean, yes, there were plenty of stuff. It still happens today. Because if you don't have money to go after, these big businesses, then you just get screwed over. But, people were saying in the comments, for one, too, that interracial marriage wasn't legal until 1967. This is definitely set far before that. This was probably set,
it's in the 50s.
10 years, 12, 15 years, previous. So, yeah, that character, I kind of don't want to call him. I forgot what the term you used. I don't know if you said he was weak or a weakling or something. I don't want to use that term, because if you are somebody that's in an interracial relationship back then, you can't be weak. You just can't, because you're going to deal with negativity from both sides. And luckily, because he was a undertaker, I mean, you have one of those essential jobs that people just know they need at some point, and no one really messes with the undertakers. So people are kind of afraid of him. That was one of those things they talked about even in the Wild West. They were like, no one really messes with the Undertaker. Just leave that dude alone. But, I don't know. I love the show. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the whole thing with all the gangster stuff, it's really interesting to see all these different groups. In the first episode, it starts off showing how all these different immigrant groups come in, and how they're all on the bottom rung and trying to move up. And it starts with the Jews and the Irish, and then it goes with the Irish and the Italians, and then it goes with the Italians and the blacks, and that's where we're currently at. And that's where Lamont was saying they do this whole thing where they swap sons, and that is done in a sense to maintain the peace. So when someone has your child, they know you can't just randomly go at war, because then they can just kill your son, the leader, the crime boss's son. And so since he's the one at the top making the decisions whether someone goes to war or not, he doesn't want his son killed. then you have to maintain the peace. The problem that came in with it is when the Irish crime boss sent his son over there the first time, and then when he went back, and they needed to do a swap again for the he was sent over there first with the to the Jews, and then when he came back from living with the Jewish families, he sent that same son back again to go live with the Italians. And at that point, the son was pissed because he was like, I've been loyal, I did my time, and you don't value me now. Now he felt like you don't look at me as your son anymore. You just look at me as a castaway. And so that's when he decided he was going to turn on him. So there's and that dynamic that plays into how this guy is, how his character exists and how he moves within this Italian family, because he's Irish. He's clearly Irish. He's never been thought of as anything but the Irish. And even when you see the way he's dressed, he's always dressed sort of shabbily in comparison to the other guys, and he's taking care of, he's charged with taking care of the black son.
Lloyd Cannon's son.
Lloyd Cannon's son. So he's charged with taking care of him. And he's telling the son, he's sort of guiding him, telling him, keep your head down, watch, learn, look, and eventually you'll go home. And so he could just basically just look over him and feed him, but he's sort of guiding this kid because he understands what the kid is going through, and he's gone through it not just once but twice, and the second time is now lasting his entire life. So, it's an interesting show. It's definitely worth the watch. That it's gonna. I'm curious to see what's gonna happen with the daughter that lives across the street from the crazy nurse, because she went in there. The lady told her not to go into that room. She went into the room. She saw that the woman is basically a serial killer that's taken trophies, and now she's and she got up and left and forgot her notebook inside that room. So the nurse is going to find it and know that she knows. And so now it's curious to find out how that's going to play out.
Right. It's going to be crazy, man. That nurse is nuts, ladies and gentlemen. She'll definitely be a character you can't stop taking your eyes off of, because she is nuts. She's got a little bit of a relationship going on with the Italian son, who is getting ready to get married to a politician's daughter for power. He don't even want to be with her. I mean, there's so many machinations going on in this story. You've just got to watch it. And so
he's so disrespectful. He said, I'm a slow pump babies into your daughter every day and twice on Sunday.
Yeah,
like, damn. It's like no father wants to hear that.
No, man. Like, damn, dude, what you think you was a piston? Some kind of car part or something? I'm going to slow pump. Bruh. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, leave us all your comments. That is going to do it for tonight. Be sure to catch us on Wednesday as we will talk power one more time. And during that particular episode, we will have this good brother right here. Y'all know him as Jay Moore from Jay Moore's Reviews. He'll be up here with us to talk a little power. We'll probably talk a little politics. And we might expand on some other shows that are going on as well. Larry, any last words?
Yeah, if you guys have not checked out Charm City Kings, check that out. It is a fantastic show. It's on Netflix, right?
No, HBO Max.
HBO Max, right? There you go. So check that out. That is a fantastic show. It's set in it's a movie. It's set in Baltimore. It's got Meek Mill and in there. I think that's probably the only known quantity in that show that I know of as far as someone that you would recognize. But it's a really, really good. It's a really good movie. You know. Yeah. It's a really good movie. There's some parts in there that are really heartbreaking, and it feels it's one of those shows where you see how things can go really right or really wrong really quickly, depending on very small decisions in people's lives, and some of those small decisions turn out to be very large ones. So or have large consequences, and so I would recommend it highly. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Muchella hit the nail on the head with that one, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're somebody out there that wants to join me and Larry, get your voice out there on a TV show or a movie you're watching, hit us up on the gram, or you can hit me on Facebook.
And mask up, please.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't talk about, because we're not going to talk about Professor Carey Wednesday, and I don't want to hear y'all talk about her either. So, having said that,
Wait, Professor, you keep saying Professor Carey. Is that the one that was banging Zeke in the bathroom stall?
goodbye,
Professor
y'all.
Ingram?
It's been real. We'll see you on Wednesday.